Practicality, performance, cost. These are the three requirements that every single petrol head parent needs to consider when looking to buy their next exciting family car. Many people believe incorrectly that performance SUVs are the way to go. But in actual fact, as you get bigger and bigger, a practical car suddenly starts to be less and less practical, in my opinion. No, it's my belief that the car we're driving today is the one that hits the sweet spot of that trifecta of requirements. The Audi RS6 Avant. But which of the RS6s is the sweet spot? Well, today we're driving this 2015 C7, and I think that it's got the potential to make a claim for it being the pound for pound best RS6 to buy today. Come on, let's find out, shall we? My name's Ben, and welcome to Dadcars. Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. So for those of you who missed it, we have recently reviewed the C6, the V10 Audi RS6, and I absolutely fell in love with that car. God, that engine is incredible. So I was very excited to drive this car today and see, how the C7 compares. So I will naturally be making a few comparisons throughout this video to the previous generation RS6 as well. Right, sweetie, we're coming up to national speed limit here. Do you want to see how fast this car is? Let's put it into sport. Oh, drops it down, little crack and burble. Ready? 3, 2, 1. And that's 60. Whoa, can you hear that? Do you like popcorn? Because I think we're making popcorn out the back. So sweetie, do you want me to tell you a little bit about this car? So this car has got a 4-litre twin turbocharged V8, which produces 560 PS. Which is actually slightly down, about 20 PS down on what the previous generation V10 was. But torque is up in this car. I think this produces around 516 pound-foot of torque, whereas it was like 479 for the C6, I believe. Oh. This is also lighter than the previous generation, and it's not just because the engine is smaller and lighter. I believe they used more aluminium in the construction of this generation as well. So this is under 2 tons, whereas the previous gen V10 is over 2 tons. And gone is the 6-speed, which I really loved in the previous car. And here you have got a 8-speed Tiptronic automatic gearbox. So we do a 0 to 60, sweetie. Yeah, let's pull over here. It's going to go really fast, okay? You ready? Like being on a roller coaster. 3, 2, 1. It doesn't take long to get to 60, does it? I think Audi claimed that this is sub 4 seconds now. So, they say it's 3.9 seconds, and yeah, look, it feels awfully fast. Now, options on this particular car that I'm driving today, it's got the DRC suspension, so it's not the air suspension, which means the top speed in this is higher. I think the top speed, if you're playing top trumps, is about 176 miles per hour, I believe. And you probably already heard that this has got the sports exhaust. That's why we can hear that it's making pops and crackles out the back, sweetie. And if you're looking at these cars, you can tell if it's got a Audi sports exhaust like this, if the exhaust tips are black. Let's talk about the looks. I think it's fair to say that the C7 strikes the perfect balance between modern and sort of special sporty, whilst also still remaining understated to a certain degree. With the current C8, the styling has gone a bit more wild, hasn't it? They've thrown caution to the wind. But I reckon as much as I love the C6, if you put one of these next to the previous generation one and asked 100 people which one looks better, I think that this would win. I love the look of the flared arches on this car, but even like the lights, all the styling of this car, despite the fact that these are an over 10-year-old design now, I still think it looks lovely, fresh and modern. You can't review an RS6 without checking out the rear practicality, so let's do that now. So how does the C7 compare to the C6? Well, first thing you notice is there's no soft closing on this particular model. There was on the C6 that I featured, but what about legroom? Yep, similarly, fantastic legroom. And because this car has been spec'd with the wonderful panoramic sunroof, headroom is slightly more compromised. But yeah, it's fine. But if I sit right back, Yeah, my head does actually touch the roofline. That's interesting. Honestly, for rear seat passengers, children, obviously, you know, having a panoramic sunroof does really help make it feel a lot more airy and large in the back, particularly when you've got a dark interior like this. But these seats, oh, quilted stitched leather, absolutely glorious. These do feel nicer than the previous gen. Look, you've got heated seats, climate control back here, some charging ports, a little netted holder here for your children to put bits and pieces, a Bose sound system, and the all-important Sweetie wrapper bin. But sitting here actually feels remarkably similar to the previous generation RS6, but that's no bad thing. This is ultimate practicality. And obviously you've got 2 sets of ISOFIX in the back, and I'm pleased to say that these ones are very easily accessible. If you're not interested in ISOFIX, it makes them more unsightly, but trust me, for parents with young children who use ISOFIX, putting seats in and out a lot, having ones where you don't need to worry about your lovely quilted leather is a huge plus. And something which I love about Audi is there's also ISOFIX on the front passenger seat, and you can switch off the passenger side airbag in the glove box. And obviously in the boot as well. This got a massive boot. I think it's 565 litres. I had no problem whatsoever putting a large double buggy in the back, as well as my camera bag, and I'd say that there was still enough space in the boot for a full family shop as well. Honestly, take it from me, father of 4, 565 litres as your primary family car is more than adequate. Obviously the seats are split folding, they fold down if you want this to turn into a van. It's also got a ski hatch, so if you're on a long family drive and you needed to get something out of the boot, this could really save the day.
Daddy, look, it's a first aid kit. Look.
Oh, first aid kit.
Also, look, it's a little drink.
Wow, what do you think?
It's good.
Do you reckon it's going to be loud?
Yeah.
Do you want to hear it? What do you reckon?
Why is it doing that?
Why is it beeping?
Yeah.
I think it's I've got a door open. I like your sunglasses. So while we're stuck in some traffic here, I obviously took the wrong route. Let's talk about what's it like sat in here as a driver. What's it like on the inside of the C7? Well, it does feel more modern than the previous generation, as you would expect. This car's got one of my favourite features in cars full stop, a fold-away infotainment screen. In my opinion, all performance cars with an internal combustion engine, you need to be able to fold the screen away. You know, I hate this trend at the moment of the current generation cars all coming out with huge, big screens which really dominate the experience when you're sat here as the driver. And you've also got a pair of analog dials, look, which are sandwiching that rather large screen in the middle. And this just proves that you've got everything you could ever want on that massive, great big screen in the middle, but it doesn't dominate your view as the driver. But in actual fact, in this car, your eyes are always on the road because you've got heads-up display as well. Another modern feature, which I love, love, love. The steering wheel is very similar to the previous generation. A lovely size, it's got a nice shape to it, and it falls in the hand perfectly. Unfortunately, they didn't change the paddles, it seems. These feel very similar, the gear selector paddles, to what was in the previous generation car. And to me, these feel quite plasticky, and they're quite small as well. And despite the fact that this car doesn't have a leather wrap dash, everywhere that your hand touches is covered in leather or nice materials. Even the door card here is stitched leather with Alcantara. Look, this is a wonderful driver-focused place to sit. And these seats as well, obviously, are very comfortable, very lovely. Right, we're gonna turn around, sweetie, I think. So at the start of this video, I talked about the trifecta of requirements, one of them being cost. And that's not only the purchase cost, it's also the running costs. So what does it cost to run a C7 RS6? Well, this car's owner, he pays insurance £500, which I know is age and location dependent, but it's good to know that you can get reasonable quotes on these. Road tax for a fire-breathing twin turbocharged V8 is gonna be the top whack. It's gonna be £700, isn't it? Well, no, it's not. For this car, for the facelift C7 RS6s, it's £415 at time of recording. So you do get a couple of £100 saving having one of these over an earlier RS6. What about real world miles per gallon? Forget what Audi claim. Well, speaking to this car's owner who has owned it for 6 years, I believe, he tells me that on a run, you will get around 31 miles per gallon. Around town, you will get around 19 miles per gallon. And in the real world with mixed driving, obviously if you want to drive it around like a granny, you can get, you know, quite impressive miles per gallon. But this car's owner says that he, on average, with all mixed driving, gets around 26 miles per gallon, which is absolutely fantastic and is in fact 10 miles per gallon better than what, you know, the owner of the C6, the V10 RS6, which I reviewed recently, gets. So in the real world, you know, if you went for a C6 V10 or you went for one of these and you did around 6,000 miles a year, in this it would cost you £1,700 in super unleaded for around 6,000 miles. In the V10 C6, it would cost you £2,700 or thereabouts. So there's about a £1,000 difference per year in fuel between the two generations of cars. And if you're doing over 6,000 miles a year, I mean, that alone, you know, might be the thing which makes you go for one of these. Servicing costs, well, this car was purchased by Charlie, its owner, from Audi when it was about 3 years old, and so has been continued to be serviced by Audi themselves. But he said his last service was a major service, and it cost £800 with Audi, which seems pretty reasonable to me. And I asked Charlie about what big ticket maintenance items have gone wrong, and he said that he's had to change the adaptive cruise control module and 2 new front shock absorbers, but they were done under Audi warranty. But I think it's probably safe to say that common sense, as a general rule of thumb, you'd think, wouldn't you, that, you know, this generation of Audi RS6 long term is going to cost you less in general maintenance as well over the V10. And also, when you're looking to buy a family car, safety is of utmost importance as well. And I'm pleased to say that this achieved an incredible NCAP 5-star rating with an 83% score for child occupants, I believe. This has also got lots of, you know, driver assisting aids as well. I mean, it's got a brake warning that pops up on your heads-up display there. It's got blind spot detectors. I think it's even got lane assist, this one as well, which, in my opinion, while a lot of that isn't necessary in your sports performance, you know, enjoyment car, because you're so focused on, you know, on what you're doing present in the moment. But, you know, the thing with the RS6 is it is the car that can do it all. So you can have fun in this car, but you can also do your commute to work in this car as well. You know, those types of journeys where you kind of arrive at your destination and forget forget that you drove there. So practicality, tick. Running costs, tick, compared to most of the cars that we feature on this channel. But what's the driving experience like? You know, if this isn't fun, then, you know, it's not the trifecta, is it? Well, let's start with the steering. You know, I've said this before, Audi steering is a bit of an odd duck, really. It's got a really nice weight to it, but obviously it's all very, very synthetic. You know, it's like it in all Audis, and it is here as well. But in this car, I can kind of feel it's doing this thing where it wants to bring you back to center all the time. So, you know, there's almost like a little slight change in resistance that pulling you back towards keeping it in line again, which, you know, I can see why they do it, because it's all about remaining stable. You want to be traveling in a straight line. You know, if you're performing, putting the power down, you want to be in a straight line. You know, if you're on a motorway, on a bit of a long run, you know, keeping everything straight and center. You know, that's what I think the steering is trying to do here. It's trying to work with you to keep everything nice and planted. So I obviously prefer something with a bit more authentic weight to it, but this is very enjoyable. And I imagine the more time you spend with this car as well, I reckon you can build up a nice connection with this steering, you know, knowing exactly what it's going to do and have some sort of firm confidence in it. When you kick down into sport mode, the throttle response, I mean, it's very, very punchy. I was wondering whether it would, you know, wouldn't quite feel quite as punchy as the previous Gen 1, but honestly, the power in these RS6s is undeniable. Look, we're coming up to national speed limit here. We're in sport mode. Let's drop it down into second. Right, ready. Oh! These are mind-bendingly fast, aren't they? God, and that sports exhaust, it's making all kinds of drama out the back. It really is. Now, when we were doing the drive-bys earlier on, unsurprisingly, it doesn't sound as good as the V10, but I reckon if you had this without this Audi sports exhaust, I reckon this would sound really muted. But as the driver, there's lots of sound, lots of feel, lots of drama, like, oh. My cheeks are hurting from smiling driving this around. That is always a good sign. So the whole review so far, we've been driving this on individual mode, so you can set, you know, how you want the dampers and everything else. And look, I'll flash it up on screen now to show you what individual mode is set up like in this car. But it's felt, so far with those settings, it's felt comfortable yet composed. When I hit a bit of rough tarmac, it has sort of felt a little bit sort of bumpy in here, but my little one is sleeping in the back. So let's try dynamic, shall we? So that has firmed things up significantly. Yeah, God, you really can feel the road. Hang on, let's go around this roundabout. Oh, dude. Oh, I do really love these cars. Oh, that's wonderful. Right, so look, I would say if you're going for a blast on your own, on your favourite bit of tarmac, yeah, put it in dynamic, it does firm everything up. You know, you are really locked down to the tarmac. But for driving it around as a family car, it's far too firm. Right, let's try comfort as well, and let's see if that softens things up a little bit more. Ah, that's interesting. So I've put it in comfort now, and the steering has sort of become a bit more casual as well. It's not doing that thing where the resistance is trying to pull you back into sort of keeping everything in a straight line. So, God, yeah, look, this is the wonderful thing about the RS6 as well. It's just so approachable, so drivable. This is just effortless. It really is the having your cake and eat it car, isn't it? But what do these C7s cost to buy today? Well, would you believe it? I checked the classifieds this morning, and on Auto Trader, there were multiple C7s up for under £25,000. Now, admittedly, they were sky-high miles, loads of owners, private. So common sense would say for those early non-facelift cars, maybe you want to pay sort of closer to 30,000. But what about for a car like this, a well-spec'd facelift? This is a 2015, so, you know, probably for around £35,000, you'd be able to get yourself a wonderful car like this. You know, well-spec'd, lovely, well-cared-for car is literally 1/3 of the price of a brand new C8 RS6 before options. Is this car really 1/3 of the car that a brand new one is? I don't think so. And that's why I reckon, you know, the C7 could well be the pound for pound, all-round best RS6 that you could buy. What do I think is the one to go for? You know, a V10 C6 or one of these? Well, look, we're coming up to verdict time, aren't we? But first, I want to say a massive thank you to this car's owner, Charlie. Thank you so much, Charlie, for bringing it down. Charlie is a dad. He's got 2 children himself, but they are growing up now. I think one of them's in university and another one is currently taking their GCSEs. But Charlie tells me that, you know, while his children were growing up, he's always had an exciting dad car, you know, the most exciting thing that he could comfortably afford. He had a 306 XSI, then he had a E36, then an E39, and then he had a C7 S6, and he loved that S6 so much that, you know, he upgraded to this facelift C7 RS6. But thank you so much, Charlie, for bringing this down. I really appreciate it. If anybody else watching would like to see their car on the channel, if you're watching this and thinking, oh, hang on a second, I've got something which is even better than the RS6, get in touch. If you fancy a day down here on the south coast of sunny Hampshire, you know, reach out to me, send me an email, or pop me a message on Instagram. So what is my verdict? What would I buy? A C7 like this or a V10 C6? Well, in truth, I would buy both of them. You know, depending on the budget that I had at the time and my requirements, I could make a strong case for why I would buy either one of them, you know, in different circumstances and different stages of my life. But if you're watching this in the future and for some reason they are both around the same price, I'd say go for the C7, because I think the much more reasonable running cost, you know, would make this a safer purchase. But the reality is, at time of recording, you know, these are still sort of, you know, they're a step on in purchase price. So for me personally, I would go for a C6. I'd go for the V10, but I don't do many miles. I'm ridiculous. I love big engines. I used to have a V12. So for me, I'd go for a C6. But I have to say, general consensus, if you can afford it, if you can comfortably afford a good C7, it's the far more intelligent thing to go for. You're more likely to use it more, you know, go on long trips, making memories with your family, using it day to day. Look, I'm all about using the most exciting car you can comfortably afford as your daily. And I think the C7 is a far more capable daily, isn't it? But I have to say, I am just falling in love with these cars. I love this. I would so love to have this car, but I can't afford it. And I think it's safe to say that the Audi RS6 is on the Mount Rushmore of dad cars, isn't it? It's an absolute dad cars legend. You know, I love these cars ever so much. I've got to get every single RS6 on the channel for a review. So if you're watching this and you've got a C5 or you've got a C8 and you'd like to see it on the channel, please reach out. I'd love to hear from you. And if you haven't seen the review that we did on the V10 C6, check it out now. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one.